Tutorial on how to use the counselor dashboard in the Expecting Success study. I have the Excel file open to the main tab, so you see a bunch of sheets with different names on them. Main is the main page that has all the different buttons on it. The very first time that you sit with a study subject, you're going to have to populate this counselor dashboard with their data. To do this, you'll select the green button, and you'll notice that it says click to start simulation only for the first session, so you'll never do this again. So you select this, and we'll be prompted right away to enter the study subject ID, and this is the Pennington study subject ID, the last 6 digits, with no dashes and no spaces. So we're going to enter a sample study subject so you can see how the data is populated. Once we hit submit, we're prompted to open the main database file that contains the clean data from the web portal. So I've saved this on the desktop. And you'll see it do some work. And now you see something different on the main page. In the graph now, you have a picture of the predicted weight gain curve that comes from the model. This is the maroon curve, and the dashed lines represent the upper and lower Institute of Medicine bounds. Now if you click on the graph, it will rescale and have the entire full view from pregnancy week 0 to 42. You can also zoom to a specific range, so if you want to see only weeks 12 to 18, you can select the minimum week as 12 and the maximum week as 18, and it will rescale so that you can view right within those weeks. Clicking on the graph brings you back to the normal full screen view. The study subject information sheet has now data that has been grabbed from the main database that now will fill in this this counselor dashboard for this study subject. Now, to populate the weight records, it's a very similar process. Every time you sit with a study subject, you want to look at their weights and how things are going, you would select this blue button that's titled Refresh Weight Records. So if you click that, and then we'll be prompted again to open the data storage file. You'll see it do some work, and now there's these green dots, which represents the weekly weights inside that have been pulled up from the body trace records from the main database for this study subject. If you go to the daily body trace weights, you now have data in here. In columns A and B, what you have are the dates and the weights that were recorded that are in the main database. And this is here so that you can identify which dates in question you want to counsel the patient on. And over here on the right, from C to G, you actually have these same kind of information except by gestational day. So if you click this graph, you'll now see a daily body weight graph, which looks a bit noisy, but you can definitely zoom in by clicking the zoom button to a specified range to look at some patterns, body weight patterns in a range. I didn't mention earlier, but the predictions page and the data kilograms page have the model predictions in pounds and in kilograms, so those are populated with the initial green button. You have a similar button for refreshing step records. This is this dark tan button, Refresh Step Records, and it's an identical process. You'll click the Step Records button, be prompted to open up the data storage file, and it will populate the steps sheet. And again, clicking on the graph will now display all the daily step data, which again looks pretty noisy, but you can zoom in on a particular range. So again, now I can see patterns over a shorter range. Similar to the daily body weight sheet, you have the first 2 columns are a record by date. So you can track with the study subject which date corresponds to what you're seeing here on the gestational day graph. And on the C through E columns, you've got the plots of steps versus day of gestation. The summary of study subject informational views, the light tan button, represents how much, it finds how much your subject has been looking at their, for example, their weight graph. Selecting this button will, first of all, tell you whether something's been uploaded or what's been there last since you last looked at this. So far, nothing's there, but we're going to populate it now by going back to the data storage file. And now we are back on the study subject information page. These were blank initially, but now they've been, there's weight graph views, step graph views, and lesson views entered in. Now, if you go select it at a later date again, you will find that the record of what you when you last looked at this, and what information you saw there. So the information that there were 88 weight graph views, 60 step graph views, and 35 lesson views. That's what you viewed last time before you refresh, because refreshing will override what was in the file. So if you discussed with the patient last time about their views, you say, last time we saw that you had only 88 weight graph views, and this time, and it'll fill in with new numbers if there are new numbers. Finally, there's these last two buttons. The Run Flags button represents a color code for whether they're in, out of the zone, or close to the edge of the zone. So if we select that, you'll get a color-coded documentation of when there was no data, when they were well within the zone. Red represents out of the zone. Yellow represents if they're within 1 pound of the zone. And dark blue represents if they've lost too much body weight. If you don't remember the flag codes, there's a sheet titled Flag Codes with that information. And for example, an adverse event would be if an overweight individual had lost more than 4% of their enrollment weight, or an obese individual had lost more than 6% of their body weight. That would appear as a flag. All these last sheets are help sheets, so they're informational or help sheets. Now we have the toolbox. The toolbox are what options you've applied with this subject to help manage their weight gain. So far nothing's been applied, so when we select this purple button, it lets us know nothing's been applied yet. We would put in today's date, so we're going to put in a fake date, and then select some options. You're sent to the Toolbox report page, and in the Toolbox report page you see that what you just typed is now a record kept track of here. Now let's say at a later date you went back and used the Toolbox option again. Well, just to remind you what you did last with this patient, a little message pops up letting you know that you already applied increased contact in feeding and meal plan and what date these were applied on. Then you can change these around to something else. And we'll put in another date. And you see that your old record is still here, but your new record has appeared, and the totals of everything, there's a running total of what's been applied. So you have a running summary at all times of what you've used with this subject. Finally, programs are not foolproof, so things can go wrong. And if something goes wrong or you can't get something to work that's beyond your watching the tutorial, this tutorial, you can always just send me an email, and you just go to the help button, and this will fire up, clicking this will fire up Outlook, and you can send me an email with your problem. And this completes the demonstration of the Counselor Dashboard.